Iran's foreign minister has landed in Islamabad, and US special envoys are on their way in what could be a fresh push to restart stalled peace talks. But even before the talks begin, there's confusion over whether they will happen at all. Well, the White House says that senior envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will hold in-person talks with Iranian representatives in Pakistan. But Tehran is telling a different story. It says no direct talks are planned. Instead, Pakistan may act as a go-between, relaying proposals. US President Donald Trump also claimed that Iran plans to make an offer which is aimed at satisfying United States demands, but said that he did not yet know what the offer entailed. When asked who the United States was negotiating with, Trump said that, and I'm quoting him here, "I don't want to say that, but we're dealing with the people that are in charge now." Pakistan's foreign ministry said that Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi had arrived in Islamabad to discuss ongoing efforts for regional peace and stability with Pakistani officials without directly referencing talks with Witkoff and Kushner. Araghchi would visit Oman and Russia after the Pakistan stopped to discuss efforts to end the war. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, who led the first round of negotiations with Araghchi, is not attending. Vice President J.D. Vance, who led the US side in the first round 2 weeks ago, would not be joining for the time being, but is on standby to fly to Pakistan if necessary.
The president has decided to dispatch Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner back to Islamabad. The Iranians want to talk. They want to talk in person. And so the president is, as I've said many times to all of you, always willing to give diplomacy a chance. So Steve and Jared will be heading to Pakistan tomorrow to hear the Iranians out. We hope progress will be made, and we hope that positive developments will come from this meeting.
Although major gaps remain between both the sides, ahead of the talks, Iran said that the main subject in the negotiations was no longer the nuclear issue, but instead ending the war in a way that secures the country's interests. Listen to this.
The main issue is ending the war in a way that secures our interests and demands. From the outset, we said we accepted this ceasefire because it could serve as the groundwork and prelude to a complete end to the war on all fronts, taking into account the country's interests, including compensation, the issue of the Strait of Hormuz, the lifting of sanctions, and all issues that are critical for the country's future.
Well, Iran is refusing to negotiate while a US naval blockade stays in place. It has tightened control over the Strait of Hormuz, which is one of the world's most critical oil routes. US military says so far 34 ships have been turned back as part of the US blockade of Iran's ports. 3 merchant vessels have been seized so far.
No one sails from the Strait of Hormuz to anywhere in the world without the permission of the United States Navy. To the regime in Tehran, the blockade is tightening by the hour. We are in control, nothing in, nothing out.
Meanwhile, the United States has deployed a 3rd aircraft carrier to the region. The USS George H.W. Bush, it has now made it to 3 aircraft carriers which are deployed in West Asia for the first time since it waged the 2003 Iraq War. According to the U.S. Central Command, the 3 battle groups comprise over 200 aircraft and 15,000 sailors and Marines. And to discuss more on the escalating West Asia conflict, we were earlier joined by James A. Russell, live from Monterey, California. He's an emeritus professor at the Naval Postgraduate School. And this is what he had to say. Listen in.
The thing that strikes me in your excellent summary coming in to this spot here was the White House spokesperson talking about hope and having hope that there will be an exchange in Islamabad. And I can tell you that in any kind of serious diplomacy, you need more than hope. In going into negotiations or discussions like this, which are complex. And if that's all the United States is going into this interaction with just the Pakistanis, we don't even know if the Iranians are going to sit down and discuss anything with the United States. I would say the chances of this meeting, either direct talks or indirect talks, um, uh, have little chance of achieving anything except optics. It's frankly hard to conclude that the talks are anything other than a charade that has been put on by the Americans in an attempt to sort of quote unquote calm markets, which is clearly one of the objectives of the Trump administration, to keep markets in balance. Um, uh, the Iranians, it seems to me, have been extremely clear about what they want. And I would also hasten to add one final point here. Uh, for those arguing that the war is not going on. Well, the war is going on. A blockade is an act of war. There's no ceasefire in Lebanon. The Israelis, of course, are doing everything they can to make sure that their plans to annex Lebanon are continuing. And so the fighting continues in Lebanon. So I don't hold out much hope that to get back to the quote by the White House spokesperson, hope is not a plan, which is kind of a watchword in government. You need more than just hope to achieve something concrete.